Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour on NewsHour. Canada clarifies that it has no evidence linking the Indian government or its officials to the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Russian President Vladimir Putin says prospect of further strikes in Ukraine, that depends on actions of the United States and its satellites. World leaders split as the ICC issues an arrest warrant for Netanyahu. Biden calls it outrageous, but the EU foreign policy chief says it's binding. Indian bowlers led by captain Jasprit Bumrah, they leave Australia teetering at 67 for 7 after the visitors were bowled out for 150 on the opening day of the Border Gavaskar series in Perth. Canada has issued a statement clarifying that there is no evidence linking the Indian government or its officials to the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The statement from the Canadian government emphasized that any suggestion of involvement by Prime Minister Modi, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar or National Security Advisor Doval is both speculative and inaccurate. Here's our report.
After India strongly refuted Canadian media reports and said that they should have been dismissed with contempt they deserve, the Canadian government has clarified that there is no evidence linking the Indian government leadership to criminal activity in Canada. The statement follows a Canadian newspaper report which contained these unfounded allegations. In its statement, the Canada government said, and I quote, "On October 14th, because of a significant and ongoing threat to public safety, the RCMP and officials took the extraordinary step of making public accusations of serious criminal activity in Canada perpetrated by agents of the Government of India. The Government of Canada has not stated that, nor is it aware of evidence linking Prime Minister Modi, Minister Jaishankar or National Security Advisor Doval to the serious criminal activity within Canada. Any suggestions to the contrary is both speculative and inaccurate." Unquote. Diplomatic ties had reached a new low when Canada-based Globe and Mail attempted to worsen the already strained ties. The newspaper drew a connection between the death of Hardeep Singh Nijjar and the Indian government. Reacting promptly and strongly refuting the Canadian media reports, India's Ministry of External Affairs dismissed them and said they needed to be treated with the contempt they deserve, and emphasized that the smear campaigns only further damage nations' already strained ties. Earlier this month, the spokesperson of the Indian External Affairs Ministry clarified India's stand in no uncertain terms.
Our view is very clear about extremism and the culture of violence and anti-India activities in Canada. This is our core concern with the Canadian government, and we hope that they will take action against these activities.
India has always denied all allegations regarding Nijjar, calling them absurd and motivated. A few months back, India recalled 6 diplomats from Canada after they were declared persons of interest. Hardeep Singh Nijjar was killed outside a Gurdwara in Surrey in British Columbia on June 18th last year. Bureau Report, DD India.
And let's move on to our next story, and this is about West Asia. And in fact, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu lambasted the International Criminal Court's decision to issue arrest warrants and he called the ruling anti-Semitic. While many countries have supported Israel, they've rejected the court's decision. In fact, the Hungarian Prime Minister has invited Prime Minister Netanyahu to visit Budapest to defy the court's ruling. Let's look at this report.
Day after International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants, Benjamin Netanyahu denounced the charges as anti-Semitic and said the court's accusations are absurd and false.
The anti-Semitic decision of the International Court in The Hague is a modern Dreyfus trial, and it will end the same way. No biased anti-Israel decision in The Hague will prevent the State of Israel from defending its citizens. Israel will not recognize the validity of this decision. We will continue to do everything we must do to defend our citizens and defend our state against Iran's axis of terror.
Israel and its allies, including the United States, rejected the ruling, claiming the ICC lacked jurisdiction.
We fundamentally reject the court's decision to issue arrest warrants for senior Israel officials. We remain deeply concerned by the prosecutor's rush to seek arrest warrants and the troubling process errors that led to this decision. The United States has been clear that the ICC does not have jurisdiction over this matter.
The Netherlands-based court also issued arrest warrants for Israel's former defense minister Yoav Gallant and Hamas's military chief Mohammad Deif. The warrants related to Hamas' attack on Israel on 7th October 2023 and the Israeli military response in Gaza. The court has accused them for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Gaza conflict. Hungarian Prime Minister has also condemned the court's order and invited Prime Minister Netanyahu to visit Hungary to defy the court's decision.
There is no other choice but to defy this decision. So today I will invite Israel's Prime Minister, Mr. Netanyahu, for a visit to Hungary, and in that invite I will guarantee him that if he comes, the ICC's ruling will have no effect in Hungary and we will not follow its contents.
The International Criminal Court's involvement began in 2018 when Palestine referred the situation to the court. In the year 2023 and 2024, multiple countries, including South Africa and Chile, added further referrals. Despite Israel not being a signatory to the Rome Statute, Palestine's status and the broader context allowed the criminal court to pursue the case. In the latest, Israel's military killed 5 Hamas operatives, including 2 commanders, in an overnight raid in northern Gaza. The army added the commanders had led murders and kidnappings in the southern Israel. The military also said it had taken numerous steps to mitigate the risk to civilians. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, going back to our story on the Canadian statement, which clarified their position, and they also rejected the idea of those media reports that were going out in Canada. They've also said that there's no proof of any Indian government hand. We are joined by Professor Harsharan Pant, the Vice President of the Observer Research Foundation, to throw light on this. Professor Pant, thanks for being with us. Now, has Canada finally understood, they have a one India policy, they've understood what it really means in a sense? So I can't hear you.
Sorry. Yes. I think you can now.
Yes, go ahead.
I think they have understood, and perhaps it's a late recognition that this kind of selective leakage of information, this kind of selective media briefing, and incomplete and inaccurate media briefings at times can do a lot more damage to Canada's global image and Canada's ties with India, perhaps, than they realized when this whole episode started. So finally, now that there is a semblance of sensibility in the way they have communicated the latest aspect, does tell you that they are learning their lessons. But I think the damage has already been done, and in some ways, what Canada does from now onwards, and if perhaps it can now dial down the rhetoric and go back to the basics when it comes to diplomatic niceties, would perhaps determine India-Canada trajectory. But I think this step is certainly a welcome step of acknowledgement that what has been happening for a while now has done enormous damage to India-Canada ties and the way Canada is perceived in India.
Well, but Professor Pant, what can be expected from now on? Will separatist elements, continue to get sanctuary in Canada? What can we expect?
Well, I don't think that is, that is going to change much because unfortunately, Mr. Trudeau's government is a captive of very parochial interests, and those interests have not allowed him to have a very sensible policy towards India and towards the larger issue of extremism and separatism and terrorism, which can bite Canada much more harshly than they realize. So I think in the ultimate analysis, what we are witnessing now is perhaps the end of Mr. Trudeau's political term in Canada, the way, for example, opinion polls have projected that if elections were held today, he would lose massively. And therefore, perhaps a recognition that his political cards that he had been playing are only backfiring, not only damaging Canada's global credibility, but also not giving him any political fillip at home that he so desired when he started off this entire charade of his India policy.
And what are the potential implications of the standoff, on bilateral trade and investment between India and Canada? After all, I mean, there's such a large Indian community there, and there is a presumption that, over time, the trade and business investment would actually increase because of this diaspora connect.
Absolutely. I think the two nations have so much going for them. The relationship has so much going for it, particularly with regard to the societal connections that the two nations have, and also with regard to, in some ways, the economic ties that the two nations have been able to build. I think Prime Minister Modi's landmark visit to Canada, I think it was 2015, when he and then Prime Minister Stephen Harper had laid down the basics of this engagement, very expansive roadmap. That all came to naught with Mr. Trudeau coming to office thereafter, and his very partisan approach to foreign policy. And that meant that all that optimism, all that potential that had been there in the relationship could not really be realized. And I think now, as you look back and you look at the extent of diasporic engagement, you look at extent of trade engagement, much could have been accomplished in these last few years that was made subservient to the broader political agenda of the Trudeau government. Is hopefully once we see a bit of sanity on the Canadian side, we might also see movement on these fronts.
But do you see any, legal or diplomatic challenges in resolving the extent of the standoff? After all, I mean, relations have deteriorated. We know we've seen now some sort of turnaround, but at least in the near term, do you find that there are going to be some challenges?
I think the challenges are huge because the distrust is the levels of distrust are quite high, and I think perhaps Mr. Trudeau has become symptomatic of this larger problem in Canadian foreign policy of how do you engage India when you have almost backstabbed India in dealing with some of the most critical issues. India, after all, was from the very beginning pointing out that look, some of these elements that you are sheltering, some of these sentiments that you are promoting, they will do great damage to India-Canada cause, of course, but they will also do damage to Canada's reputation. And that's exactly what has happened. I think much contrary to what perhaps Mr. Trudeau and his administration they were expecting. It is Canada that has been put in the dock. In some ways, the questions that even some of Canada's closest allies have asked, are directed at Canada. So in that sense, I think how do you bridge that divide that has, the chasm that has increased under Mr. Trudeau? That remains the biggest challenge. And therefore, I think in some ways, dialing down of Canadian rhetoric and some of the, statements that they have made do create favorable optics and favorable reality for this relationship to move forward. But I think Mr. Trudeau it has become symptomatic of the problem. And unfortunately, so long as he's in office, this challenge will always remain that can you really trust his administration? Can you really move beyond the kind of bad atmospherics that he has created for this relationship? And can you really go to the fundamentals of the problem that exists, that perhaps both Canada and India would want to weed out, but unfortunately for domestic political reasons, Trudeau decided to use it against India. So I think those challenges continue to pervade the Indo-Canadian diplomatic relationship.
Also, Professor Pant, to what extent, has Hindu-Sikh unity helped in preventing a more serious communal divide in Canada and, a possibly serious disruption in the relations?
I think that has been quite exemplary. If you see how the two communities have actually worked together rather than being at loggerheads. There have been some stray incidents here and there, but by and large, if you see the kind of the significant diaspora that we have in Canada and the communities that have held together, this idea that India stands united behind this idea of against this idea of separatism, against this idea of extremism, and I think that Hindu-Sikh unity has perhaps been one of the most fascinating aspects of this debate, because in some ways it would have been very easy to provoke a divide, and everything that Trudeau administration did would have been in some ways added to the complexity of the problem and to intra-communal tensions. But I think the way the community leaders managed it, and the way in some ways the top leadership of both communities took a stand against some of the most challenging issues that confront not only India but Canada also. I think that has created I think the sense of optimism that you were talking about. That ultimately, if the community continues to hold together, then the challenge of diplomatic problem being resolved with some semblance of sanity always remains. And I think that's what has kept the relationship going rather than any political attempt by Trudeau administration.
And also, if we look at recent events, the G20 recently took place. Do you think that anything would have happened over there that might have changed changed the mind of Prime Minister Trudeau, the way he was behaving and the way he was portraying this situation, this problem, the sanctuary given to separatists? I mean, we are maybe reading too far into the statement, but at least it's one change. That is a change for the better.
I think it is a change for the better. I think, given how bad the ties have been, these are small green shoots of recovery, perhaps, that we can, take solace from. And I do think that, when you look at the global map today and where India stands and how global leaders are vying to have a relationship with Prime Minister Modi and India, I think that tells you the story that in some ways, Mr. Trudeau would have felt very isolated at these multilateral platforms, and would have also then therefore taken a step that, look, it is perhaps in Canada's best interest to have a relationship with India that is forward-looking, that in some ways dials down the rhetoric, that in some ways manages to bring back the relationship to some semblance of normalcy. It is going to be very difficult, as we have been discussing, but I think if you look at it from a global perspective, perhaps for Mr. Trudeau, the writing is on the wall that even as he loses domestic political support and he feels globally isolated, Prime Minister Modi has only become stronger, coming to office for the third time, and also becoming being very popular with all kinds of global leaders. So I think that sentiment also would have led to certain changes in the tonality of Canadian diplomatic engagement with India. But we'll have to wait and watch and see how this progresses, because I think there is also a likelihood that as Mr. Trudeau faces political debacle in the coming months, he might once again be tempted to use the rhetoric that he has used in the past.
Right. Thanks very much, Professor Harsharan Pant, Vice President of Observer Research Foundation, for joining us for the moment. Thanks for being with us. Now, still to come here on DD India News Hour. Senegal's ruling party wins 3/4 of the parliamentary seats in weekend elections. And Cyclone Bomb pummels US state of California.
Nakwana Namaste. The long wait of 17 years is finally over as the plane of Prime Minister Narendra Modi touches down Abuja. The voice of Global South is amplified in Nigeria. The mother of democracy meeting the largest democracy of Africa.
ये सिर्फ मोदी का सम्मान नहीं है, ये सम्मान भारत के करोड़ों लोगों।
What special program India-Nigeria strengthening relations on Saturday at 5 p.m. IST only on DD India.
This is a special episode where we are taking a close look at the bonds between India and one of its important neighbors in the Indian Ocean, the Maldives.
India provides educational and training opportunities to us.
Whenever we need help, India has been the first country to respond.
In my career as a journalist, it was an Indian teacher who got me interested in writing.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, the Adani Group has labelled the charges against it as baseless and has stated that they are fully compliant with all laws. They have also vowed to seek all possible legal recourse. Indian authorities have said that the law will take its own course. Many analysts have come out in support of the Adani Group and see the charges by the US Department of Justice as politically motivated. Let's look at this report. Several analysts have weighed in on the charges made by the US Department of Justice against Indian industrialist Gautam Adani, his nephew Sagar Adani and several other executives. The US Securities and Exchange Commission has filed civil complaints against them for alleged bribery, making misleading statements to investors and destroying evidence. The charges are related to renewable energy projects in India. The Adani Group has denied these allegations, calling them baseless. Prima facie, what are the legal implications in India?
And when there is a big conglomerate having the various business interests, right, having the competition in the transport and as well as in the green energy sector with the Chinese companies, having the competition with the oil-rich countries, right? So and they've survived even the Hindenburg. So what happened? So you don't know who is interested in killing the competition, bringing somebody down. A person is presumed to be innocent till found guilty.
The angle of targeting business interests in India has found support among global analysts. The fundamentals of the Adani Group were strong, the balance sheet healthy and the assets robust. They also had a good track record in fulfilling their obligations. This action hits India's corporate image.
That is what, to my mind, is worrisome, because a kind of situation is being created by vested interests in US, whereby they are leveling charges which can affect investors to come to India.
The fact that these allegations come at a time when the US government is in transition adds another layer of intrigue to the allegations. They could be designed to disrupt the anticipation of even stronger ties expected under a Trump administration.
So effectively, there is a big lobby which wants to neutralize Trump. So it wants to create trouble so that Trump can't be effective as the president, because trouble has already erupted before he becomes president.
The Indian government and the ruling BJP have stated that the law will take its own course. This reflects their stance on allowing the legal process to address the charges. The Adani Group has labelled the charges as baseless and stated that they are fully compliant with all laws. They have vowed to seek all possible legal recourse. Bureau Report, DD India. Senegal's ruling party has won over 3/4 of the parliamentary seats in the weekend elections. President Bassirou Diomaye Faye's PASTEF party secured 130 in the West African 130 seats, that is, in the West African country's 165-seat National Assembly. Abhishek Bose reports.
Senegal, a West African nation, is facing a severe economic crisis. With unemployment soaring above 20%, many are desperate for a better life. Recent floods have only added to the woes of this struggling country. Some Senegalese are risking everything to migrate to Europe by sea. But amidst this chaos, legislative elections have been held in the country and the results are in. The ruling PASTEF party, led by President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, has secured a landslide victory with 130 out of the 165 seats in parliament. This win gives Faye a clear mandate to implement his ambitious reforms, including fighting corruption, revamping the fishing industry and maximizing natural resources benefits. People now expect the new government will solve the unemployment issue.
We expect the new assembly to pass laws focused on youth employment. We have seen the issue of illegal immigration. Our youth are dying at sea, and we need this issue to be addressed. We need jobs. What belongs to us in this country, but what was given to foreigners, should be returned to us.
The opposition coalition has secured only 16 seats. Ousmane Sonko, the influential leader of PASTEF and Prime Minister, is credited with masterminding the party's victory. Sonko came to power with fire in March this year after a landslide victory. However, he decided to dissolve parliament in September, claiming an opposition-led parliament hampered his government's power. He called for snap elections. Faye and Sonko have promised to diversify political and economic partnerships, review hydrocarbon and fishing contracts, and re-establish Senegal's sovereignty, which they said has been sold abroad. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
Cyclone Bomb, which pummeled the northwest area of the United States, has had a catastrophic effect in California after leaving a trail of destruction in Washington. The Category 4 supercyclone is rapidly intensifying, expecting to merge with an atmospheric river. Ragini Sudhir Chore reports.
A major tropical storm battered the northwest region of United States with strong winds and rain, leaving widespread catastrophic effects, claiming 2 lives. The powerful storm, known as a bomb cyclone, clobbered Washington state on Wednesday. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration categorizes bomb cyclone as a rapid intensification of a cyclone located between the tropics and the polar regions. Cyclone Bomb is further expected to combine with an atmospheric river, bringing life-threatening rainfall and flooding to the western region. The atmospheric river, which occurs when water evaporates into the air and is carried along by the wind, was moving slowly over northern California on Thursday morning.
Atmospheric rivers are pretty much, you can think of it as like a river in the sky. So a river transports, as we know, a river transports a lot of water. And so atmospheric rivers are essentially that, just up in the sky. They're relatively long, narrow regions with significant water vapor that helps to transport moisture from the tropical areas into the mid-latitudes, which is where the United States is located.
As the Atlantic hurricane season winds down, Cyclone Bomb accounts as one of the strongest among 18 tropical cyclones formed this year. The storm, with tropical storm force winds of 50 miles per hour and gusts around 70 miles per hour, is Category 4 supercyclone, rapidly intensifying and going to stall over northern California. Power outages, schools closed, and downing trees form common ambience for those living in the northwest region of the United States. About 260,000 homes and businesses remain without power in Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. Ragini Sudhir Chore for DD India.
Well, a new draft of a deal on cash to curb and adapt to climate change was released on Friday afternoon at the United Nations Climate Summit, and they pledged $250 billion by 2035 from wealthy countries to poorer ones. The amount is more than double the previous goal of $100 billion a year set 15 years ago, in fact. But it's less than a quarter of the number that was requested by developing countries, which have been struck hardest by this extreme weather. However, officials believe that it doesn't correspond to the fair and ambitious goals.
As you know, since the beginning of this year, Azerbaijan COP29 presidency has been pushing for a more fair and ambitious outcome of the COP29, the fair ambitious NCQG that takes into account needs and priorities of the developing country parties. Today we have published a streamlined package of the draft decisions, and that includes also a $250 billion goal by the developed countries. We will continue to work with the parties to make the final adjustments to those issues that are still outstanding, and we will try to make sure that, and we are committed to make sure that this COP has the most ambitious outcome by pushing all the parties to get there.
Let's take a look now at other stories making news around the world. A portrait of the painter Caravaggio, held in a private collection since it was discovered over 60 years ago, is being shown to the public for the first time ever in the museum in central Rome. The portrait will be on display from November 25 to February 23 of 2025, a long time that is. A young Australian woman died after drinking contaminated alcohol at a popular tourist town in Laos on Friday, bringing the death toll now related to suspected methanol poisoning to 6. South African police services and military personnel are navigating hard to rescue miners trapped in the Stilfontein mine. Until on Friday, what happened was that more than 1,000 illegal miners had been rescued. Hundreds are believed to be still underground. The Vatican has installed a 29-meter tall alpine tree in St. Peter's Square for Christmas festivities. The tree, which weighs 5 tons, has sparked a controversy, with some environmental groups opposing its cutting and ordering its removal. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that Russia's strike on Ukraine's city of Dnipro with a new intermediate-range missile has frightened Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. DD India's Abhishek Bose has more.
Ukraine's parliament cancelled its session on Friday over Russia's launching of an intercontinental ballistic missile on the central Ukrainian city of Dnipro. Russia said the strike on Ukraine was designed as a message to the West against its support to Ukraine. In a defiant message to the West, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Moscow has the right to strike countries whose weapons are used by Ukraine to hit Russian territory. He threatened.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in New Delhi after concluding his 3-nation visit to Nigeria, Brazil and Guyana. It was a historic visit in many respects. Over the last 10 days, the Prime Minister has met over 31 world leaders, many of them in Guyana, and it has been quite fascinating, of course, also in Brazil because of the G20. But that particular leg of his visit was significant, a lot of outcomes. The Second India CARICOM Summit also had taken place in Guyana. The Prime Minister had also interacted with a large number of prominent members of the community there, including some legendary West Indian cricketers. We are likely to show you visuals of that meeting also in a short while. Those cricketers of great legend of days of yore. But Prime Minister now has returned, and of course he did speak as well at the Guyana legislature, apart from meeting the members of the CARICOM. He had bilateral meetings separately with all the leaders of the CARICOM countries. It was a very hectic visit in terms of, the amount that has been achieved, but very substantive for India. So these are visuals that have come in just a short while ago. Prime Minister has returned from that 3-nation visit, starting with Nigeria, then going on to Brazil, Rio, where he attended the G20 summit. And those are visuals that were coming in from our sister concern, DD News. Now, still to come here on DD India News Hour. Online applications invited for CBSE.
In fact, मेरा नमस्कार. मिनिस्टर विनफ्रीड, कैबिनेट में मेरे सहयोगी ज्योतिरादित्य सिंधिया और इस समिट में शामिल हो रहे देवी और सज्जनों, इंडो जर्मन पार्टनरशिप में आज एक नया अध्याय जुड़ रहा है. भारत के टीवी 9 ने फ्राउ एब बे, स्टुटगार्ट और बाडेन व्यूर्टेमबर्ग के साथ जर्मनी में इस समिट आयोजित की है. मुझे खुशी है कि भारत का एक मीडिया समूह आज के इंफॉर्मेशन युग में जर्मनी और जर्मन लोगों के साथ कनेक्ट करने का प्रयास कर रहा है. इससे भारत के लोगों को भी जर्मनी और जर्मनी के लोगों को समझने का एक प्लेटफॉर्म मिलेगा. मुझे इस बात की भी खुशी है कि NewsNight इंग्लिश न्यूज चैनल भी लॉन्च किया जा रहा है. साथियों, इस समिट की थीम इंडिया जर्मनी आ रोड मैप फॉर सस्टेनेबल ग्रोथ है और ये थीम भी दोनों ही देशों की रिस्पॉन्सिबल पार्टनरशिप की प्रतीक है. बीते 2 दिनों में आप सभी ने इकोनॉमिक इश्यूज के साथ साथ स्पोर्ट्स और एंटरटेनमेंट से जुड़े मुद्दों पर भी बहुत सकारात्मक बातचीत की है. साथियों, यूरोप जियो पॉलिटिकल रिलेशंस और ट्रेड एंड इन्वेस्टमेंट दोनों के लिहाज से भारत के लिए एक इम्पोर्टेंट स्ट्रेटेजिक रीजन है और जर्मनी हमारे मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट पार्टनर में से एक है. 2024 में इंडो जर्मन स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप के 25 साल पूरे हुए हैं और ये वर्ष इस पार्टनरशिप के लिए ऐतिहासिक है, विशेष रहा है. पिछले महीने ही चांसलर शोल्ज अपनी तीसरी भारत यात्रा पर थे. 12 वर्षों बाद दिल्ली में एशिया पैसिफिक कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑफ द जर्मन बिजनेसेस का आयोजन हुआ. इसमें जर्मनी ने फोकस ऑन इंडिया डॉक्यूमेंट रिलीज किया. यही नहीं, स्किल्ड लेबर स्ट्रेटेजी फॉर इंडिया उसे भी रिलीज किया गया. जर्मनी द्वारा निकाली गई ये पहली कंट्री स्पेसिफिक स्ट्रेटेजी है. साथियों, भारत जर्मनी स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप को भले ही 25 वर्ष हुए हो, लेकिन हमारा आत्मीय रिश्ता शताब्दियों पुराना है. यूरोप की पहली संस्कृत ग्रामर, ये बुक्स को बनाने वाले शख्स एक जर्मन थे. 2 जर्मन मर्चेंट्स के कारण जर्मनी यूरोप का पहला ऐसा देश बना जहां तमिल और तेलुगु में किताबें छपी. आज जर्मनी में करीब 3 लाख भारतीय लोग रहते हैं. भारत के 50,000 छात्र जर्मन यूनिवर्सिटीज में पढ़ते हैं और ये यहाँ पढ़ने वाले फॉरेन स्टूडेंट्स का सबसे बड़ा समूह भी है. भारत जर्मनी रिश्तों का एक और पहलू भारत में नजर आता है. आज भारत में 1800 से ज्यादा जर्मन कंपनियां काम कर रही है. इन कंपनियों ने पिछले 3-4 साल में $15 बिलियन का निवेश भी किया है. दोनों देशों के बीच आज करीब $34 बिलियन का बायलैटरल ट्रेड होता है। मुझे विश्वास है आने वाले सालों में ये ट्रेड और भी ज्यादा बढ़ेगा। मैं ऐसा इसलिए कह रहा हूं क्योंकि बीते कुछ सालों में भारत और जर्मनी की आपसी पार्टनरशिप लगातार सशक्त हुई है। साथियों, आज भारत दुनिया की फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग लार्ज इकोनॉमी है। दुनिया का हर देश विकास के लिए भारत के साथ साझेदारी करना चाहता है। जर्मनी का फोकस ऑन इंडिया डॉक्यूमेंट भी इसका बहुत बड़ा उदाहरण है। इस डॉक्यूमेंट से पता चलता है कि कैसे आज पूरी दुनिया भारत की स्ट्रैटेजिक इंपॉर्टेंस को एक्नॉलेज कर रही है। दुनिया की सोच में आए इस परिवर्तन के पीछे भारत में पिछले 10 साल से चल रहे रिफॉर्म, परफॉर्म, ट्रांसफॉर्म के मंत्र की बड़ी भूमिका रही है। भारत ने हर क्षेत्र, हर सेक्टर में नई पॉलिसीज बनाई। 21वीं सदी में तेज ग्रोथ के लिए खुद को तैयार किया। हमने रेड टेप खत्म करके ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस में सुधार किया। भारत ने 30,000 से ज्यादा कंप्लायंस खत्म किए। भारत ने बैंकों को मजबूत किया ताकि विकास के लिए टाइमली और एफोर्डेबल कैपिटल मिल जाए। हमने जीएसटी की एफिशिएंट व्यवस्था रखकर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड टैक्स सिस्टम को बदला, सरल किया। हमने देश में प्रोग्रेसिव और स्टेबल पॉलिसी मेकिंग एनवायरनमेंट बनाया ताकि हमारे बिजनेस आगे बढ़ सके। आज भारत में एक ऐसी मजबूत नींव तैयार हुई है जिस पर विकसित भारत की भव्य इमारत का निर्माण होगा और जर्मनी इसमें भारत का एक भरोसेमंद पार्टनर रहेगा। साथियों, जर्मनी की विकास यात्रा में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और इंजीनियरिंग का बहुत महत्व रहा है। भारत भी आज दुनिया का बड़ा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब बनने की तरफ आगे बढ़ रहा है। मेक इन इंडिया से जुड़ने वाले मैन्युफैक्चरर्स को भारत आज प्रोडक्शन लिंक इंसेंटिव देता है और मुझे आपको ये बताते हुए खुशी है कि हमारे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग लैंडस्केप में एक बहुत बड़ा परिवर्तन हुआ है। आज मोबाइल और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में भारत दुनिया के अग्रणी देशों में से एक है। आज भारत दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा टू व्हीलर मैन्युफैक्चरर है, दूसरा सबसे बड़ा स्टील एंड सीमेंट मैन्युफैक्चरर है और चौथा सबसे बड़ा 4 व्हीलर मैन्युफैक्चरर है। भारत की सेमीकंडक्टर इंडस्ट्री भी बहुत जल्द दुनिया में अपना परचम लहराने वाली है। ये इसलिए हुआ क्योंकि बीते कुछ सालों में हमारी सरकार ने इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इंप्रूवमेंट, लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट रिडक्शन, ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस और स्टेबल गवर्नेंस के लिए लगातार पॉलिसीज बनाई हैं, नए निर्णय लिए हैं। किसी भी देश के तेज विकास के लिए जरूरी है कि हम फिजिकल, सोशल और डिजिटल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर इन्वेस्टमेंट बढ़ाएं। भारत में इन तीनों फ्रंट्स पर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर क्रिएशन का काम बहुत तेजी से हो रहा है। डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी पर हमारे इन्वेस्टमेंट और इनोवेशन का प्रभाव आज दुनिया देख रही है। भारत दुनिया के सबसे अनोखे डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर वाला देश है। साथियों, आज भारत में बहुत सारी जर्मन कंपनीज है। मैं इन कंपनियों को निवेश और बढ़ाने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं। बहुत सारी जर्मन कंपनियां ऐसी हैं जिन्होंने अब तक भारत में अपना बेस नहीं बनाया है। मैं उन्हें भी भारत आने का आमंत्रण देता हूं। और जैसा कि मैंने दिल्ली की एशिया पैसिफिक कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑफ जर्मन कंपनीज में भी कहा था, भारत की प्रगति के साथ जुड़ने का यही समय है, सही समय है। इंडिया का डायनेमिज्म जर्मनी के प्रिसिशन से मिले, जर्मनी की इंजीनियरिंग इंडिया की इनोवेशन से जुड़े, ये हम सभी का प्रयास होना चाहिए। दुनिया की एक एंशियंट सिविलाइजेशन के रूप में हमने हमेशा से विश्व भर से आए लोगों का स्वागत किया है, उन्हें अपने देश का हिस्सा बनाया है। मैं आपको दुनिया के समृद्ध भविष्य के निर्माण में सहयोगी बनने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं। थैंक यू। दानके।
Well, that was Prime Minister Narendra Modi's keynote address at the India Inside the Global Bright Spot. That was the title. And this, in fact, is a global summit which is taking place in Stuttgart in Germany. It's being organized by NewsNight, and it focuses on ties between India and Germany, especially focusing on new and renewable energy and clean energy solutions and transitions. Now, the Prime Minister spoke about India's close ties with Germany, especially in this field, in the field of business, in which he talked about, several companies investing here in India, and about $15 billion worth of investment, and also about $34 billion worth of trade that is taking place between these two countries. The Prime Minister said that this is only going to increase. And he spoke also of several steps being taken in India to improve the ease of doing business, to make things easier for companies to do business here in India. He gave an account of India's strides, various strides in different sectors, and how fast India is growing as the fastest growing large economy in the world. So this exactly is what the Prime Minister was speaking about. We are soon to get other visuals of Prime Minister's recently concluded three-nation visit. The Prime Minister, we are in a little while to get those visuals. But apart from that, we can continue to talk a little bit more about what the Prime Minister did speak about. As I did say, he was speaking at length about the close ties between Germany and India in the fields of new and renewable energy. In fact, this, as we said, is a summit which has been organized in Stuttgart. It is a summit where Prime Minister has delivered the keynote address, and he did so underscoring India's commitment to fostering partnerships with Germany. The summit, is really part of this TV9 network's increasing of India's thoughts abroad. It's an aim to spotlight India's growth story in different parts of the world, exploring opportunities for Indo-German business interests and collaboration, and they are very happy to have the Prime Minister address their summit. Sustainability, technology, global trade, these are some of the issues that were being talked about. And in fact, it was a summit that they say was more than just dialogue. It was a gateway, in fact, to a stronger bridge, a relationship between the two countries. Now let's continue to get you more news from, this is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visuals that we are going to show you right now. Visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting Guyanese cricketers. In fact, this is, of course, the meeting with the Prime Minister, Irfan Ali, but the person he did just meet was Alvin Kallicharran, who gave him a cricket bat. Alvin Kallicharran, a legendary cricketer of yore, talking to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In fact, we can see Chandra Paul next to him as well. So it's a lot of the great cricketers of old. Alvin? Yeah, let's listen.
There is no policeman here. Please come.
After India beat West Indies at Albion, Clyde, I said we're not playing any more matches at this ground. So this bat, this signature on this bat has scored not only centuries, has scored the most important thing. Wow. That is love and honor and pride to all of humanity from Prime Minister Modi.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody.
Welcome.
The great man.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. Great to see you.
Good. Nice to be in our country.
Vishu, West Indian spinner.
Vishu was originally from Gujarat.
I think so.
Huh? You were trying to find out your place.
Yeah, I was trying to.
Yeah. When you came to Rajkot, I think you went to see the place.
I was trying to look at it. Yes. Kalicharan.
So, Kalicharan ji, you have lost everything.
And your favorite cricketer is the wall.
Yeah.
Rahul Dravid. This is our wall.
Yeah.
Ryan
Rahul
Chandra.
Dravid.
So he is the equivalent to Rahul Dravid in West Indies. Ryan Chandra. So Prime Minister, we have prepared a very bouncy wicket for you here.
How's your health? Still you are active.
Let me show you this special trophy here. You will be the first one to hold this trophy, Prime Minister, but it's heavy. I'll hold it for you. Yes. This was specially designed. This is the new globe. It was made in Delhi. So this is a new tournament, the Global Super League.
Wow.
And we got very good. We got the support and blessings from the Indian Cricket Board.
बहुत ही अच्छा रहा और मैं मेरे मित्र और राष्ट्रपति जी का आभारी हूँ। वैसे मैं नाइजीरिया से शुरू किया था, आज आखिरी दिन है, लेकिन मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। मैं बहुत सालों के बाद गयाना आया तो पुराने काफ़ी लोगों से मिलने का मौका भी मिल गया। When Gary Sobers was a player, उस समय जो टीम के मैनेजर थे, शायद टेनिनाड के थे, राम रिखी, उनका फ़ोन आया कि मैं वेस्ट इंडीज़ क्रिकेट टीम का मैनेजर हूँ और मैं तुम्हें मिलना चाहता हूँ। मुझे तो कुछ पता नहीं था, मेरा कोई अचानक मुझे कैसे बुलाया, तो देन काफ़ी मज़ा आया उनके साथ।
Ricky.
Ricky. Oh, yeah.
Farouk engineer. Farouk engineer.
Yes, Farouk engineer, yes.
For about 15 years of language, he was my roommate. And he taught me a couple of words. I know Chalo, Chaldi.
Chalo, oh.
But then he tried to improve my Hindi, but he taught me all the swear words. So I really can't. But he was great. He was a wonderful teammate.
उनको इंजरी हो गई, उसके बाद उनके लिए तकलीफ हो गई। अभी भी मेरी लास्ट में थोड़े दिन पहले बात हुई थी उनसे, क्योंकि मेरी और उनकी मातृभाषा एक है, हम मदर टंग एक है, तो मेरा फारूक के साथ काफ़ी अच्छा नाता रहता है।
I want to tell you my first tour to India, 1973-74. And you know, you broke the country. Going back to mother country is very, very emotional and touching. The West Indian team arrived. They were going through the VIP lounge, and I was looking around the airport to see everything. 5 o'clock in the morning, listening to the sitar music, you know. And by that time, the whole team went in. So I followed into the VIP lounge. And I opened the door, tap, tap, police started to beat me. Police started to beat me. I said, me, West Indies, nahi. No. Now, Bombay Airport in those days, 5,000 people sitting out in the church. I was one of them. And the team came out. I was looking for anything, anyone. The manager would say, manager, please, I'm here. He came to me, tell you what are you doing there? Ask him. Ask him. And the police came back, and in amazement, I said, here we go. So the chaps put the box board and put my name, Alvin Kalicharan, West Indies. I want to share that my first experience. The mother country.
Very interesting.
So wait for the outside of the bus. So we were all sitting. So came out. I went to call the police. So the police chased Bates around the bus all around. And then when he tried to open the bus now, the police was still chasing him, missing the door. He missed the door. The police came in and he started. Everybody sitting in the bus now. I know who did this. I said, who did? You!
You know, Kapil Dev, when he came to Guyana, he said to us, you were there, Bobby. He said when they made the movie on the World Cup, he went to the director because they came to him to get the whole script. And he told them there was an important aspect of the movie that was missing. And that was Guyana. Because he said the inspiration to win the World Cup came from Guyana. Because the Indian team came to Guyana and played West Indies at Albion. And that was the first time India won a one-day outside of India against the Great West Indies. And he said when they beat West Indies in Albion, that gave them the inspiration and the motivation that they could have won the World Cup.
They won the game in World Cup.
At that time, Kapil Dev was there.
Yes, Kapil Dev.
Kapil Dev.
But guess what Clive Lloyd did?
Yeah.
After India beat West Indies, at Albion, Clive Lloyd said, we're not playing any more matches at this ground. They stopped playing West Indies game at Albion.
They had more support there than they had in India.
Well, Prime Minister, these guys, they all look up to India also. A lot of the young players today. And you know, Prime Minister just announced in the CARICOM meeting a special initiative for cricket where India is ready to train our young talent.
Young girls.
Help them. Yes, girls, yes.
11 from each country.
Yes, 11 from each country. And that is, we just had a CARICOM heads meeting with Cricket West Indies to discuss this.
I've been to India a few times and I totally love it. It's a quite diverse country. The capital city of Delhi is my favorite. I love the butter chicken and the naan. My Indian movies also, you know, Kut Kut Chota Hai is my favorite Indian movie.
So Clive would want to do the honors of signing one of these bats for you.
Wow. In the cricket, 4 generations they have?
4, yes. Definitely, yes.
Yeah. Wow, thank you. Pleasure.
So Prime Minister, this one here you will see all the players, the foreign players who played for the Amazon Warriors. And we're hoping that the Indian players will join the league also.
Yes, someday.
Yeah.
There is no policeman here, please come. Always remember police. In India, people will love this event.
Yes.
How many of you played there in Ahmedabad? We was there. Yeah. So today, Ahmedabad is the world's largest stadium.
Prime Minister Modi, what you're really looking for there is your blessings on this bat to make the Amazon Warriors get past the finals.
Wow.
They always get to the finals, but they don't get past the finals. So this bat, this signature on this bat has scored not only centuries, has scored the most important thing.
Wow.
That is love and honor and pride to all of humanity.
Thank you. Thank you.
With love and
wow, excellent. most memorable.
Thank you.
I'll keep it with me.
So Prime Minister Narendra Modi there with true love for cricket, one can see, meeting with some legendary players of the West Indies, Clive Lloyd, Alvin Kallicharran, Shiv Naren Chandrapal, and having a beautiful interaction with them. We can see that Prime Minister is really quite involved with the game of cricket because he recognized all these people from their playing days, and they shared with him anecdotes about their visits to India. Alvin Kallicharran, of course, of Indian origin, Shiv Naren Chandrapal, also of Indian origin, as well as Bishu of Indian origin, and Kallicharran, of course, talking about how he was mistaken for an Indian at an airport when he first came and was called in by the police. Of course, the Prime Minister cracking a joke towards the end and saying that there are no policemen here, you can come and stand next to me. So that we can see is the camaraderie and the warmth with which the Prime Minister was greeted by the West Indian cricketers. And of course, they are all very, very happy with the gesture of the government of India to try and revive the great interest of cricket in the West Indies. I mean, after all, the West Indies was a great team. And even the anecdote there that was mentioned of how Kapil Dev was inspired when they defeated the West Indies for the first time in Guyana. And so one can see that, the great West Indian cricket, if it can revive, it would be quite a nice thing. So over the years now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has transformed India's foreign diplomacy into a vibrant display of cultural diversity. In his recent visit to Nigeria, Brazil and Guyana, Prime Minister Narendra Modi carried with him unique gifts from all corners of the country. Some of them include a Silofar Panchamrit Kalash, or a pot which depicts traditional craftsmanship from Kolhapur, Maharashtra, to the Nigerian president. Wadli paintings, which is a tribal art form originating from the Wadli tribe and primarily located in Maharashtra, was given to the president of Brazil, and also as one of the gifts in the customized gift hamper to leaders of the CARICOM countries. A natural rough amethyst with silver camel head on top from Pune, given to the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, at the G20. Well, Australia is the focus country this time at the 55th edition of the International Film Festival of India, and many Australian films are getting premiered this time at the event. DD India's Deepika gets us an exclusive report from Goa on the country of focus and how Australian filmmakers are taking this as an opportunity for themselves.
The 55th edition of International Film Festival of India has a strong emphasis on sharing cinema with the world. And this time, the country of focus is Australia. Speaking on being the country of focus, Australian film director Tom McKeith shared his views on how this will provide a perfect opportunity to the Australian cinema.
Look, there's a big Indian population in Australia, and we watch quite a lot of Indian films in our country as well as American films as well. And I think the big opportunity for us, because we're a small country with a small market, is an opportunity to reach a larger audience. And if we can create films that can appeal to both countries, then that's certainly a benefit to Australians and to filmmakers, because we have the opportunity to share our stories with a wider audience. So I think that's a really exciting thing, and why I think collaboration between the two countries really makes sense and could be of value to everybody.
IFI celebrating Australian cinema, highlighting the growing connections between India and Australia as both the nations continue to strengthen their cultural and screen industry ties. The Australian delegation includes key industry leaders from Screen Australia, Ozfilm, Screen Producers Australia, and a host of filmmakers, producers, and creatives who are participating in the Film Bazaar and IFI screenings. IFI provides a perfect platform to the Indian cinema that allows them to connect with the world cinema and vice versa.
India happens to be the country of focus, this time at the 55th edition of IFI. With camera person Alok, this is Deepika reporting for DD India from Goa.
Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app, which is available both on Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code and download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lin from all of us here in Delhi. Thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.